Hello. Today I'm going to be discussing the patron Hurrem Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. To start off, my name is Daisy Tahan, and I'm currently at Eckerd College in St. Petersburg, Florida, studying environmental studies and visual arts. I chose this particular patron because she has a really fascinating life story that I definitely resonate with as a woman, and she is just a really inspirational figure. She was a wonderful philanthropist, and we will dive into all of that soon, but she's a really cool figure. Coming up in this presentation, I will do an overview of the life history of Hurrem Sultan. I will also be discussing the Haseki complex, which is one of her commissions. I will dive a little bit more into other commissions of Hurrem Sultan, and I will also be discussing her long-lasting legacy that she's left on the world. So, an overview of Hurrem Sultan, aka Roxolana, or Roxolana, as she's known in the West. She was born in the year 1500, and she passed away in the year 1558. She was captured as a teenager from her home in Ukraine, and she was sold into slavery in Anatolia in the Ottoman Empire. What's really cool about her story is she didn't just accept her fate and, take whatever was happening as just how her life was going to be. She was really smart, and she actually used her charm and her wit to rise to power, and she ended up being the chief consort and legal wife of the current sultan of the time, who was named Suleiman, and he was known as Suleiman the Magnificent of the Ottoman Empire. So she actually became his legal wife, and she ended up playing a really large role in political and social affairs at the time. And she used her newfound wealth to fund art and architecture and charitable social works around the Ottoman Empire. One of the works that she commissioned that I will be discussing in greater detail in a few minutes is called the Haseki Sultan Complex, or the Hurrem Sultan Complex, located in Istanbul, Turkey. This was a 16th century Ottoman imperial mosque complex, again commissioned by Hurrem Sultan. This was the first royal project designed by famed architect Mimar Sinan, who I will also talk about later on in the presentation. It's thought that this work was commissioned and funded by Hurrem Sultan's dowry, actually. What's really, really cool about this building is that it wasn't just your typical mosque structure that a person in power commissioned for pious reasons or to showcase their power. No, this was actually a really beneficial building for the people of the Ottoman Empire, and Hurrem Sultan made sure that it wasn't just a mosque and a religious place, but it also had a soup kitchen, a madrasa, an elementary school, and a hospital. Hurrem Sultan didn't only commission that building. She actually was known to have a passion for sponsoring many other buildings around the Ottoman Empire. She was actually the first royal woman in the Ottoman court to sponsor charitable structures in the entire empire. Other than the mosque complex, she commissioned 6 schools, 4 schools in Mecca and 2 schools in Anatolia. She also commissioned a women's hospital, a mosque in Jerusalem, and the Hurrem Sultan Hammami, which is a bathhouse that served the Hagia Sophia Mosque. And what's really cool is this bathhouse is actually still in use today. She also may have had workshops in the Haseki complex for women to spin, weave, and embroider, as textiles were a really, really prevalent form of art at this time, and they were really valued. This is just a picture of the Hurrem Sultan Hammami, which is the bathhouse that I just mentioned. Again, it is still in use today, so that does go along with her legacy. And it's really cool. You can find it on Yelp, and people still use it as a bathhouse. Obviously, the interior has been redone, but the exterior is really beautiful, so I definitely wanted to include that. Moving into the main portion, her biggest commission to date, which is the Haseki Sultan Mosque Complex, which was built in 1539. This is the complex that I was discussing that had the hospital and the soup kitchen and a lot of public services inside. My chosen artwork is this picture on the right, which is an interior photo of the mosque portion, the more religious portion. The picture on the left is obviously the exterior of the Hurrem Sultan complex. It was a pretty simple construction. It had alternating stone and brick and a single galleried minaret, as well as a portico that had 5 arches and 5 small domes supported by thin marble columns. However, as I stated, we are diving into this interior photo, this specific photo, and this is kind of what I wanted to analyze for this portion. So yeah, while the exterior kind of showcases the grandeur a little bit more of Hurrem Sultan's commission, the interior is definitely a more remarkable display of both color and light. As you can see, the colors used, they contrast each other, but they also come together in harmony with mixes of warms and cools, with the blues and the reds and the greens. It really just all comes together in harmony. There are a variety of intricate floral and geometric patterns dispersed throughout the floors, walls, and ceilings, as well as a square pattern in the floors, a curved winding pattern on the inside of the arches, and more ornamental patterns line the walls. Despite the use of many different patterns, there is still a sense of harmony, energy, and rhythm throughout the use of the same or similar colors in all pieces of this photo. Due to the combination of patterns and the architectural design of the tapered archways, the viewer's eyes are naturally drawn upward toward the ceiling because this was a more pious religious portion of this complex. So this was definitely a divine or holy place, most likely used for prayer in the mosque. The archways are supported by what looks like marble columns that frame the center and bring the viewer's eyes in even more. And as you can see, the walls are very high with latticed windows that let plenty of warm light through to really highlight the colors and the designs used. There's also great visual stability and harmony because this place is fairly symmetrical. And despite the busyness of the patterns and the symbols, the space maintains a sense of openness and calmness used for prayer. Diving in more to the meanings of the patterns and the writings and the colors, the ornate, complex interior of this particular photo is a remarkable display of grace and grandeur. The patterns, angles, and archways were designed in a specific manner to really draw up the viewer's eyes, as I just said. A notable feature found in this artwork is the use of repeated floral patterns that adorn the walls and ceilings. This is an abstract form of Islamic art where vines and flowers are interwoven with curved lines and archways. These forms are obviously non-representational of anything specifically found in nature, and also non-representational of anything explicitly religious. These patterns could have been requested by Hurrem Sultan for a simple reason such as pleasure or power due to the complexity of the patterns. Another notable pattern found in this complex is the use of abstract geometrical patterns, which have even less of a recognizable form than the floral patterns, but these patterns are used to draw the viewer's attention in further. The geometric patterns are called infinite patterns that consist of a line passing over and over itself. The line seemingly has no beginning or end, and it displays a feeling of harmony and union through simplicity. The lines are meant to draw attention away from a singular point of view and towards a more universal way of worshipping and viewing the world. Hurrem Sultan could have requested these patterns for her own viewing pleasure, or again, potentially to display her personal and political power. A third feature found in this artwork is the use of calligraphy, Arabic calligraphy, in the top two corners of the display. Calligraphy is extremely important in Islamic art, as the Quran prohibits art that displays anything representational of a holy figure. The written word is the holy figure that they use in their artworks. These scripts, along with others used in calligraphic art, serve two purposes, which are to state the will of Allah and to symbolically express his properties of transcendence and unity. Due to the religious nature of these scripts, it can be assumed that Hurrem Sultan incorporated these for pious reasons to elevate her worship and her faith, and the faith of those who would be using this building. Again, Hurrem Sultan did work on this in tandem with Mamar Sinan. He also built the bathhouse that I was speaking of earlier. And this guy was really famous. He still is considered a genius of his time. He was a chief Ottoman architect for 3 sultans, including Suleiman the Magnificent. He designed over 500 major buildings, and his style was marked by the grandeur and the functionality of the structures. So he would build anything from mosques, schools, hospitals, bridges, aqueducts, all these things. He had an undeniable influence on Ottoman architecture, with traditional Islamic elements combined with his own creative visions. He actually also went on to establish a school of architecture which carried on his architectural traditions and left his legacy. Speaking of legacy, Hurrem Sultan herself did leave a very strong legacy on the empire as well as the world. She really did change the course of women in power positions by defying traditions. She, advised the Sultan on political and social matters, economic matters, and her contributions really improved the lives of many, many citizens at this time. Her buildings still stand today. They can still be visited. The bathhouse is still used. And she really left her mark on the world as a woman who really came from nothing and was being clearly oppressed because of her gender and her identity. And she took that and she harnessed her power, and she really rose to a position where she could help others that are struggling. And because of her story and just the story of everything that was going on at this time, there was actually a show made called Magnificent Century. This is, in Arabic, all in Arabic, obviously, but it told the story of Hurrem Sultan and Suleiman the Magnificent. And so if you're interested, I've watched a few clips. It's very soap opera-y, but it's really cool to see a lot of these stories play out on the screen. So she definitely left her mark on the world, and I hope that this presentation did her story justice.